Today I'm checking out this 12 volt DC to 120 volt AC inverter. So we plan on plugging this into a 12 volt lithium battery and running a residential refrigerator off of it. Now, we know that it won't run for a really long time, but we want to make sure that this will actually do it. So I'm going to go ahead and put it to the test now. Let's go ahead and open the box and see what it comes with. All right, in the box you get a manual, the inverter itself, and a pretty hefty set of alligator clips that you put on the leads of this inverter so you can put them onto a battery. So this says it is a 1000 watt inverter. We're going to find out, is that the continuous or the peak? All right, so based upon the specs in the manual, it says the 1000 watt inverter has a 1000 VA and a 2000 VA peak. So this should run at 1000 watts continuous and peak out for short periods of time at 2000 watts. That should be well more than enough to run a residential refrigerator. And we're going to test it by running a dehumidifier. It's a commercial dehumidifier that runs a little bit higher than a residential refrigerator when it comes to wattage. So it's a great unit to test to do what we're going to do. So this inverter is a no frills inverter. It's got 2 lugs here and a fan. And on this side, it's got 3 AC ports and, on and off switch. There's no LCD or anything like that telling you how much voltage and wattage and everything it's taking in, which is fine because I have a battery monitor that I got hooked up to the battery that will, rate this with. But this is a no frills inverter. So as long as it can do what it says it can do, I'm happy with it. So let's see what we can get. All right, so this is basically the setup I have. I have a lithium phosphate battery with the battery monitor on it. And then I've got the positive and negative ends of this inverter and everything hooked up to this. And I'm going to plug in the dehumidifier. But before I do that, I'm just going to go ahead and turn this on. And with just it running and the fan running, the inverter by itself is using 3.5-ish watts. That's actually really good when it comes to just standing wattage that it would use. So that's not bad. A lot of them are like 10 watts. I'm now going to plug in the dehumidifier. This is going to just power up the dehumidifier, but not turn it on. So now we're getting up closer to 6 watts, which is, again, expected because there's a little panel on the front of this dehumidifier. And now I'm going to go ahead and just turn it on. So we're going to see that probably quickly go up. It's spiked up for just a split second over 800. Then it went down to a little under 8. Now it's around 8. It should settle down to about 500. But this inverter is handling it. Now this is a modified sine wave inverter, not a pure sine wave inverter. If this was a pure sine wave inverter, the compressor running inside of the dehumidifier would actually run smoother because it's expecting a pure sine wave, and it would probably be closer to around 600. But when you use a modified sine wave with equipment that doesn't like modified sine wave, you're going to start getting a little bit of wasted electricity. That's if it even run. But this one's handling it. I mean, this one's taking in over 800 watts of power, and it's handling it like a champ. I did hear the fan kick on better or higher. Still no real heat detection from the inverter. So yeah, this is running about what I would expect out of a 1000 watt inverter. It sounds like it's going to be pretty close to true to expect, if not even better. Being able to maintain 800 watts out of a 1000 watt inverter is actually pretty good for these economy type inverters. And it did say, like I said, 1000 watt continuous, 2000 watt peak, which would be, starting power of engines, capacitors, motors, things like that. And then they'll settle down. So most inverters, when they say they are 1000 watts, especially in the lower price range, they're advertising the peak range. So they're really more close to 500 watts and they peak out at 1000. But this one is obviously not that way. They're labeling it 1000 watts as its continuous running power. And they stated in the manual that it's a 2000 watt peak. So yeah, this one is definitely something I would give more of a 2 thumbs up for instead of a 1 thumbs up, like most of the other inverters I've tested. Again, My recommendation is to not, use up all 1000. If you need 500 watts continuous, maybe look at 1000. Maybe 600 to 700 watts continuous, I'd still go with 1000. But if you're wanting to run close to 1000 watts continuous, personally, I step up in size. I'd probably go with like a 1500 watt inverter, but that's just me. And that all comes down to temperature. You don't want these things running hot all the time and the fans happen to be running all the time. You're going to get less efficiency out of them. So if you want a better efficiency, then get a step up. But for what this is, definitely doing its job. All right, well, I hope this video was helpful. Thank you very much for watching. Y'all take care.